If you watch sports, there are two moments that matter. The first time you watch it, and then the first time you fall in love with it. The 2011 Tour de France is when we fell in love with cycling. The Tour that year felt like it had every top star in great form, and every person had their own compelling story. Every stage brought a new surprise, a new tale of lore to follow, and the race, maybe for the first time ever, didn't have a single boring stage. In this and the next 4 videos, we'll be looking back at every stage of the 2011 Tour, the riders as they make appearances, and the events and narrative threads that wove together a beautiful tapestry that July. Welcome to Tour 11. The 98th edition of the Tour de France gets underway with a grand départ for Stage 1. This is just the second time since the 1967 Tour that it's starting without a prologue. The organizers have set aside tradition in favor of a more exciting opening. That is especially true for this stage, one that finishes at the top of a Category 4 climb. In fact, it almost seems designed for one man, Phillipe Gilbert. Philippe Gilbert was having the season of dreams in 2011. The Belgian had achieved the impossible by winning all 3 Ardennes Classics within a single week that April: Amstel Gold, Flèche Wallonne, and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, making Gilbert cycling royalty. His punchy climbing style made him the perfect rider for short, explosive finishes like the one waiting for him today. Gilbert was clearly feeling good. The entire Omega Pharma Lotto squad had spent the day on the front, setting the tempo and keeping their leaders safe. The best hill climber in the whole peloton was primed for victory, and the bonus of pulling on the yellow jersey. We're reaching the final kilometers when we catch the first major crash of the Tour. No contenders are hurt, but one is caught behind. Alberto Contador arrived at the 2011 Tour as both defending champion and current Giro winner, a massive cloud hanging over his head. In September 2010, news broke that a urine sample from the 2010 Tour had tested positive for trace amounts of clenbuterol, a banned anabolic agent. Contador blamed contaminated Spanish steak, but the cycling world remained divided. The Spanish Federation had cleared him, but the UCI and WADA had appealed, leaving his participation in doubt until the last moment. Now, his Tour was off to a poor start, caught behind this early crash. Back at the front, a new team takes control, the red and black kits of Team BMC. They're picking up the pace to put Contador in more trouble and set up their own GC contender for the stage win. Cadel Evans had come so close to winning a Grand Tour, finishing second at the Tour de France in both 2007 and 2008. The Australian was known for his consistency and intelligence, but the former world champion never quite managed to seal the deal when it mattered most. For 2011, he was putting all his eggs in one basket. Quote, "1 year in my life, I have to really focus on the Tour, and this year is the time to do it." With 2 kilometers to go, it's Omega Pharma back on the front. In the final kilometer, as the climb begins, Gilbert is in second position, perfectly placed to control the finale. An attack comes from the left. Alexander Vinokurov and Thomas Vogler are the aggressors. Gilbert is on them instantly, staying in third wheel, ready to pounce when another classic star attacks. Fabian Cancellara was the undisputed king of the Cadel Classics, having won Paris-Roubaix, Tour of Flanders, and claiming the Time Trial World Championship. The Swiss powerhouse possessed incredible sustained power output that made him dangerous on any terrain that favored raw strength. This race becomes a momentary duel between 2 types of specialists: the Cadel Classics king versus the Ardennes master. Cancellara hangs with Gilbert briefly, but this is the Belgian's territory, and the Swiss rider is no match on these gradients. Gilbert storms to victory and a yellow jersey, achieving yet another historic moment. He now had stage wins at all 3 Grand Tours. This Tour stage joined his 3 Giro stages and 7 Vuelta wins in his resume. Quote, "It's hard to take in what I'm doing. Liège-Bastogne-Liège was a childhood dream, and today was as well." For the other GC contenders, no one suffered significant time loss, though Evans gained 3 seconds on most rivals. Small margins that could prove crucial in July's heat. Quote, "The strength of the team is each individual member. The strength of each member is the team." The team time trial had fallen down the priority list for Grand Tour organizers, but it remained a treat for true cycling fans. It required total commitment from every squad member, and rewarded great roster construction, tactical planning, and attention to marginal gains. Stage 2 presented a 23-kilometer long flat team time trial that would create time gaps between GC contenders without eliminating anyone from contention this early. Contador Saxo Banks started first and posted 25:16, a respectable time that would serve as an early benchmark. Among the favorites, one team stood out: Garmin-Cervelo. Their season hadn't gone as planned. Johan van Sommeren's upset Paris-Roubaix victory aside, their Spring Classes campaign had been disappointing. Perhaps they were still adjusting to the merger between Team Garmin Transitions and Cervelo Test Team. But the merger had created a squad with time trial talent: David Miller, David Zabriskie, and their strongest rider, Thor Hushovd. Thor Hushovd carried the strength suggested by his Norse god namesake. The Norwegian had won 7 Tour de France stages and was a consistent classics contender, but most importantly, he was the reigning world champion. His rainbow jersey brought both prestige and the power to blend in perfectly with his team specialists. Sitting just 6 seconds behind Gilbert overall, a yellow jersey was within reach. Garmin-Cervelo took the fastest time at the first check, moving like a well-oiled machine. They reached the finish with 6 riders, and since time is taken on the 5th rider across the line, there is no concern. Their time of 24:48:10 made them the first team under 25 minutes. Team Sky was up next, seeking redemption for their GC leader and validation of their marginal gains philosophy. Bradley Wiggins had finished 4th at the 2009 Tour and signed with Team Sky partly because the British team existed for one goal: getting the first British winner of the Tour de France within 5 years. 2010 had been a disaster for this mission, with Wiggins failing to crack the top 10. But 2011 showed signs of revival. He'd won the Criterium du Dauphiné, beating Cadel Evans convincingly. Sky faded to finish 5 seconds behind Garmin. A good performance, but a missed opportunity for their team to claim a first ever Tour stage win. Next came the newest team on the block, Leopard Trek, in their strikingly similar colors to Sky. Their mission was simple: finally get one of the Schleck brothers to win the Tour. The Schleck brothers had been consistently close to Tour victory for years. Frank, the elder, had finished in the top 5 for 3 consecutive years. Andy, the young star, had been runner-up twice, including the previous year's heartbreaking second place to Contador. Their rivalry with the Spanish climber had personal elements, especially after Andy's mechanical on the crucial Pyrenean stage in 2010. Time trials were their weakness. Neither possessed an ounce of time trial talent, but on a team time trial, they had Fabian Cancellara to tow them across the course. All they needed to do was hold on. Leopard Trek finished 3rd, just 5 seconds behind the leaders, a result that kept the Schlecks in a safe position until the mountains arrived. BMC took 2nd, maintaining Evans' advantage in the overall standings. But it was Garmin-Cervelo that claimed the stage victory, and Thor Hushovd pulled on a yellow jersey for the first time since 2006. Quote, "This is a great day. We did a really good team effort. Everything worked perfectly. Every rider gave 100% for the team." Team owner Jonathan Vaughters captured the emotion. Quote, "We don't have the biggest budget or the biggest staff, but we have the most passion. Today, it came together." The biggest GC loser was Contador, whose deficit increased by 28 seconds. Precious time that could prove costly in the mountains. Stage 3 provided the first opportunity for sprinters to make their mark, and it's impossible to discuss sprinting without mentioning the best in the peloton. Mark Cavendish was establishing himself as the greatest sprinter of his generation, and maybe all time, with 15 Tour stage wins already to his name by age 26. At just his 5th Tour, he was already one victory away from entering the top 10 all-time stage winners. There is speculation that he might one day challenge Eddie Merckx's record of 34 stage wins. But as we join the finale, Cavendish's HTC High Road squad is nowhere to be seen. Instead, it's Garmin in control, led by yellow jersey wearer Hushovd. He wasn't sprinting for himself. That honor belonged to the rider in third wheel. Tyler Farrar had won stages in both the Giro and Vuelta, but the Tour de France had remained elusive despite several close calls. 2011 had been an emotionally challenging year, following the tragic death of his friend and training partner, Wouter Wayland, in a crash of the Giro d'Italia. I am unbearably saddened by the loss today. As many know, he was my friend, training partner, and in many ways, another brother to me. I will remember him always, and will always strive to do him proud. In the final 100 meters, Farrar was riding with the strength of two people. And on July 4th, he shook off his demons and claimed his Tour de France stage victory. This would prove to be Farrar's only Tour stage victory, a poetic achievement earned in memory of a fallen friend. Stage 4 presented a tougher version of the opening stage, finishing atop the Mur de Bretagne, dubbed the Breton Alpe d'Huez. This 2-kilometer Category 3 climb was designed to provoke an early GC battle. With 1.5 kilometers remaining, all contenders were present as Rabobank led the peloton. Contador was there, bouncing in his distinctive style, alongside Gilbert and the polka dot jersey. Contador struck first, attacking to achieve 2 goals. 1, making up time lost in the opening stages, and 2, establishing that he remained the favorite despite his troubles. Gilbert quickly closed the move. He wouldn't let this opportunity slip away. The pace slowed with 1 kilometer to go until Cadel Evans came to the front to maintain momentum. All the contenders were present except Andy Schleck, who's positioned further back. Most importantly, Hushovd was still there, needing to finish towards the front to retain yellow. Evans took lead again, and Contador launched another attack. This time, it stuck briefly, with Evans closing the gap to ride alongside the Spaniard. They sprinted together, matching each other pedal stroke for pedal stroke to the line. No one could immediately tell who had won, even with Contador's premature celebration looking foolish when the results confirmed Evans as the stage winner. Hushovd's remarkable performance continued. He finished with the leaders, seemingly drawing power from the yellow jersey itself. Andy Schleck lost a few seconds due to positioning, a problem he would need to address before the mountains. Stage 5 should have been straightforward for the sprinters, but the Tour rarely follows script. With 4 kilometers remaining, HTC was chasing a resilient 2-man breakaway, featuring Thomas Voeckler, a Frenchman who had built a career on breakaway heroics. Voeckler attacked solo with the peloton approaching, but one man couldn't hold off the field forever. With 1 kilometer to go, chaos erupted. Tony Martin, HTC's diesel engine, was leading when his teammates sat up, creating a massive gap. The peloton split in the middle, and from this confusion emerged a team skyrider. It involved Boasson Hagen. Boasson Hagen was a Norwegian phenomenon, rapidly ascending cycling's hierarchy. His versatility and tactical intelligence made him dangerous in multiple scenarios, and his attack showed both courage and race-reading ability. But the legs weren't quite there. He was caught with 300 meters remaining. The finale became every rider for themselves. Gilbert found himself at the front again, desperate for a second victory. From the left side of the screen, Mark Cavendish appeared, facing a long sprint with no lead-out support. It wasn't pretty, but Cavendish ground out the victory, pulling alongside Gilbert before edging ahead for his 16th career Tour stage win. Quote, "It was proper hard. My legs were going. I'm really happy. It's just good that we came out against adversity." Cavendish could enjoy this victory briefly, before tomorrow's punchy uphill finish would exclude most pure sprinters. Stage 6 offered another day for a sprint, but that uphill finish would mix things up considerably. The early breakaway included Johnny Hoogerland, who could collect points for the mountain's classification on the day's hills. As rain began falling, approaching the finish, Hoogerland's day ended at the foot of the final climb. Thomas Voeckler launched another attack, joined by Omega Pharma's Jelle Van der. Neither looked capable of staying away until the final kilometer beckoned, and despite Voeckler's never-say-die attitude, they were caught. The final incline had scambled the peloton beautifully. Cadel Evans sat in second position, with the white jersey of best young rider Geraint Thomas in third. Gilbert's green jersey in 5th, and Hushovd's yellow jersey prominently displayed. Through the chaos, Geraint Thomas positioned himself perfectly in second wheel, looking after Edvald Boasson Hagen. As Thomas moved aside, Boasson Hagen launched through the gap, with Hushovd and Gilbert marking the move. The sun reflected off the wet road as Boasson Hagen powered clear for Team Sky's first Tour de France stage victory. It's hard to say anything right now. I'm just really happy, and winning my first stage of the Tour is really great. Stage 7 should have been a simple sprint day, but the Tour always has other plans. With 38 kilometers remaining, a crash on a tight road scattered the peloton. Team Sky riders were standing around the aftermath, and this could only mean one thing. Riley Wiggins had crashed and would have to leave the Tour with a broken collarbone. Wiggins never got a chance to display his form, becoming yet another casualty of the Tour's unforgiving nature. The cameras lingered on a rider whose seasonal goals had been shattered in an instant. The show continued, with HGC Highroad delivering perhaps their best lead-out ever. When Mark Renshaw dropped Cavendish off near the finish line, it was an easy victory for the sprinter. It was his 17th Tour Stage win, achieved in the same town where he'd taken his first. Quote, "This is a very special day for me. This was the one sprint that I really wanted, apart from the one in Paris, because of its significance to me." The team took control early on, and the camera shots of the run-in speak for themselves. The guys rode phenomenally well. The first true climbs of the Tour arrived on Stage 8, 2 Category 4 climbs and a single Category 2, building to the summit finish at Superbis. With over 100 kilometers remaining, a battle erupted in the peloton for the intermediate sprint points. The green jersey competition was heating up between Cavendish, Philippe Gilbert, and current wearer Jose Joaquin Rojas. Since Cavendish couldn't climb as well as Gilbert, there was an opportunity for a non-pure sprinter to claim the green jersey. With 26 kilometers remaining, 2 young riders led the race, 24-year-old Rui Costa from Movistar and 22-year-old TJ Van Garderen from HTC Highroad. They were approaching the summit of the final categorized climb before the ascent to the finish. Behind them, an attack launched from an Astana rider who would define aggressive racing. Alexander Vinokurov had built his career on audacious attacks and never-say-die moves. The Kazakh veteran was making this his farewell tour after announcing his retirement. And at 32 seconds behind yellow jersey wearer Hushovd, this stage presented an opportunity to fulfill a dream. Despite his controversial past, Vinokurov remained an inspiring and daring rider capable of attacks like this. With 10 kilometers remaining, Vinokurov was just 24 seconds behind lone leader Rui Costa, having swept up the remnants of the breakaway. Behind by 60 seconds, the peloton was being led by BMC, with Hushovd still remarkably present in the yellow jersey group. As the rain beat down for another day, Vinokurov was catching Van Garderen, while Costa maintained his advantage. The commentary team believed it was inevitable that Vinokurov would take yellow, but Hushovd only needed to finish within 31 seconds to retain the jersey. With 1 kilometer left, everything accelerated. The peloton was in full pursuit. Costa and Vinokurov were giving everything they had. Chris Anker Sorensen attacked from the peloton, trying to soften things for Contador, provoking a response from Gilbert. This stirred up the leaders, with Gilbert marked immediately by Contador, Andy Schleck, and Evans. When Contador tested the water with a brief acceleration, Gilbert smashed up the right side of the road, taking advantage of a momentary lull to potentially claim green jersey points. Contador attacked again briefly, with Andy Schleck covering before the pace slowed. Then Damiano Cunego launched his move, winner of the 2004 Giro, still searching for Tour success. The other contenders watched each other until Evans came to the front. Andy Schleck was too focused on Contador to worry about Evans, understandable given their 2010 duel, but potentially costly tactically. At the line, Rui Costa claimed a brilliant breakthrough victory. Quote, "This is the most important victory I've ever had. I still can't believe I've won a stage on the Tour de France. To win is great for me and it's great for my team, who've had some difficulties this year, and I know this victory is going to help us." Vinokurov faded in the finale, with Gilbert crossing for second and Evans taking third. Most remarkably, tucked in this group was Thor Hushovd, delivering another miraculous performance to retain yellow. Quote, "Today I surprised myself. Again, although I did not have a good day. But I just hung on, and it's just incredible that I'm still here in yellow." The GC contenders remained diplomatic about their relatively restrained tactics. Quote, "The final wasn't hard in terms of the gradient, and it was extremely difficult to get clear. I couldn't do much else on a stage like today. The best thing is that I got through it without falling." Quote, "We never thought about attacking. So far it's a mental game, and so far, so good," Frank Schleck said. Quote, "I felt good as well," Andy Schleck echoed. "It wasn't really a difficult stage, but you had to pay attention on the wet roads. It wasn't a surprise to me that Contador attacked, because he needs to take every opportunity he gets, and it shows to me that he's nervous." 8 stages into Tour 11, and every day had delivered drama, surprises, and compelling storylines. From Gilbert's perfect Stage 1 victory, to Hushovd's miraculous yellow jersey defense, from Farrar's emotional breakthrough, to Wiggins' heartbreaking crash, the 2011 Tour was already proving why it would become legendary. The mountains were approaching, where the real GC battle would unfold. Contador needed to make up time, the Schleck brothers were waiting for their terrain, and Evans was positioning himself perfectly. In the next episode, we continue deeper into the mountains, where more storylines unfold in Tour 11.